Motuzyanyk will hear about what's happening at the front at this time. Good afternoon, dear friends. Traditionally, I am to share with you information about the military aggression of Russia against Ukraine, information as of noon today, 2nd of May. So, the enemy continues its offensive operation in the eastern area of operations. In virtually all directions, the aggressor has been firing intensely. The highest activity of the occupier is seen like it was in the recent weeks in Slobozhanщina and Donetsk directions. In Zaporizhia, Kryvyi Rih and Mykolaiv directions, the enemy has been rearranging its troops, strengthening its firing tools and air defense. The enemy actively engages for rocket and bomb strikes against targets in Kharkiv, Donetsk and Zaporizhia Oblast. It's tactical aviation. The total number has been 39 sorties. Now, brief information by direction. In Slobozhanщina direction, the enemy has been using its group, including units of the 6th Army and Coast Guard of the Baltic Fleet, to fire Kharkiv. In Izum direction, the enemy's units carry out offensive action in the directions of Izum, Barvinkovo and Izum, Slovyansk. In addition, in Belgorod Oblast, the enemy has been trying to accumulate reserves to launch combat action in eastern area of operations. In Donetsk and Tavria directions, Russian group from so-called 1st Armed Corps, 2nd Armed Corps, 2nd Army, 8th Army and 58th Army of the southern military districts carry out offensive action and firing almost along the whole front line. In Donetsk direction, the enemy has focused its main efforts to take full control of our Rubizhny and Popasna. The enemy has also been trying to advance towards Liman and Siversk. To the north of Slavyansk, the enemy conducted some reconnaissance of Ukrainian positions using UAVs. Near Mariupol, the enemy has been increasing its radar activities. In Tavria direction, the enemy has been rearranging its units, increasing its firing capacity, and doing engineering fortification of its positions. In southern Bukh direction, the enemy has been using units from 8th, 49th, 58th Army, as well as 22nd Armed Corps, to carry out combat action in order to improve its tactical position. Also continues firing against Ukrainian positions. The enemy is also trying to reach the administrative boundary of Kherson Oblast and has been looking for weak points in our defense. In Volyn, Polissa and Siversk directions, there have been no significant changes during the day. In the parts of Bryansk Oblast neighboring Ukraine, the administrative, policing and counterintelligence activities have increased. Certain units of Belarusian armed forces cover the border between Ukraine and Belarus in Homel and Brest oblasts. We cannot exclude that there will be some demonstrative and provocative actions along Ukrainian border. Also, there is still a threat that Iskander missiles will be used from the territory of Republic of Belarus to hit targets in Ukraine and to fire the infrastructure neighboring the border. Black Sea and Sea of Azov areas of operations. Russian ships now present in Black Sea and Sea of Azov continue rocket strikes against the territory of Ukraine. They implement assignments to isolate the combat area, reconnaissance and fire support for their occupational forces. I have to say that as of today in Black Sea there are now 3 ships that carry Caliber cruise missiles, and their total launch capacity is up to 20 rockets. In the meantime, Ukrainian armed forces continue causing significant losses to Russian occupants. Just yesterday, air defense units of Ukrainian air forces downed 10 Orlan-type UAVs of the enemy. In Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, during the last day, our brave warriors repelled 10 attacks, destroyed 2 tanks, 17 artillery systems, 38 armed fighting vehicles, and 10 cars and trucks of the enemy. Also this morning, near the island of Zmyny, Snake Island, Bayraktar TB2 tactical UAV has destroyed 2 Russian boats of Raptor type. The total combat losses of Russian invaders from 24th of February until today are shown on this slide. That's basically all information I have at the moment. Keep calm, believe in Ukrainian armed forces. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you, Mr. Motuzyanyk. Dear colleagues, you can ask your questions. Please raise your hand and please use the microphone.
Thank you. May I ask a question in English? What is the status of this city of Mariupol now? Is it lost for the time being to the Ukrainian armed forces, or do you have hopes of retaking the city?
Thank you for your question. I'd like to emphasize again that the situation in Mariupol is very difficult, extremely difficult. Occupiers continue blocking our units around Azovstal steel factory. They are blocking humanitarian corridors. The only thing is there have been certain arrangements to arrange a corridor for evacuation today. Mostly the city is under control of Russian armed forces. Russian troops commit crimes there. They try to conduct filtration of local people. We have information that local people are forcefully deported to Russian Federation. This is the situation at the moment. Thank you. Oleksandr, today Odessa Oblast military administration said that the enemy has carried a missile strike against the bridge there. What the situation on the border with Transnistria? You know, I will not comment on that. There has been information also about those criminal rocket strikes against Ukraine, and this information is provided by our government, at least with 1 day delay, not to help our enemy. Thank you, dear friends. Any more questions? You're welcome. Now, the question about Belarus. Do you see further supply of Russian weapons and some movements in territory of Belarus? Is there a threat from that direction? The threat from that direction has always been there. As you know, Russian army makes full use of the Republic of Belarus as its base for assault against Ukraine. That's why Russian units have managed to get to outskirts of Kyiv so quickly. Now there are Russian troops there, several battalion tactical groups. Some of them have been moved to replenish personnel and equipment after getting from Kyiv and Chernihiv Oblast. They're moved to Ukraine, to Russia, to replenish their losses, Part of Russian units are still there. They carry out some demonstrative actions, trying to prevent our units from moving to other more difficult directions. There is still a threat at the moment. There is still a threat of rocket strikes and some demonstrative actions, but we monitor the situation, we watch attentively to be able to timely respond to any changes in the situation there. Now the enemy has eastern area of operations as their goal. That's south of Ukraine and west of Ukraine. Luhansk, Donetsk Oblast, Kherson Oblast. These are the areas where the Russian army focuses its main goals in Ukraine for the nearest future. After that, depending on the changes in the situation, depending on whether the enemy manages to achieve any results, because, you know, at the moment they fail to achieve any strategic results, there are still heavy battles, and our brave defenders resist and keep the enemy from advancing across the whole front line. But we will see what will be their further actions based on the results in the east of Ukraine. And the second question from Ukrinform. It's about those explosions in Russia. Does Ukrainian intelligence have any full information about locations of those storage facilities of Russians along the border with Russia? You know, you better ask this question for our main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, but you know that they're working actively. And at the moment, they have all that information about activities of Russian occupying forces, as well as about those units concentrating on the border with Ukraine. Intelligence units have such information. I am sure they have it, but I don't have this information. But you can ask. You can ask the main intelligence department. I can just tell you that the main intelligence department regularly informs people and media about their activities. And believe me, they provide limited amounts of information, but they provide it as much as they can. You have to understand, you know, there is active military action. We have martial law in the country, and the information that can be disclosed, declassified, it is provided. Thank you. Any more questions? I'm Dmitry Didorov from Expressa TV channel. What is the situation at the moment in that triangle, Rubizhne, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk? As far as I know, the enemy has been trying to surround it and push our Ukrainian forces from there. I'm a resident of Luhansk Oblast, so I'm much interested in that. What's the situation in Luhansk Oblast? We can describe the situation in a couple of words. Active, heavy combat actions continue. Ukrainian armed forces resist the enemy. Now the enemy cannot take Rubizhne, but the combat action continues there. It's changing pace along the whole front line, also in those areas that you mentioned. Let's watch the situation and believe in Ukrainian armed forces. It is difficult now, but believe me, everybody is in their positions. There is a strong group of forces which was defending Ukraine in the east for 8 years, so it will not be that easy and simple for the enemy to achieve their criminal goals. You're welcome.
Thanks. Christina Lamb from the Sunday Times of London. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the situation in the east. What do you think? Do you think the Ukrainian forces have the capacity to push back the Russians, or do you need more ability, more weapons and things to do that? And the second question was, next Monday is Victory Day in Russia. What are you expecting President Putin to do on that day?
Стосовно першого вашого питання.
With regard to your first question, I will not make any assumptions, but I personally believe that the defensive operation also in the east of Ukraine will be successful for the Ukrainian army. I would not even cast any doubt on that. That's one thing. Second, what do we need for that? Of course we need weapons. Ukrainian army has to be strengthened with armored vehicles, with air defense tools, with aircraft. We need weapons from partner countries, from the United States, from others. At the moment we do have those supplies, and it will significantly strengthen Ukrainian troops in the east of Ukraine as well as in other regions where at the moment there has been active military action. So I am more than sure that we will manage to stop and push back the enemy and push them back behind the border of Russian Federation. What will the Russian Federation be doing on the 9th of May? Well, you see, Russia needs some sell, to say, their victories to Russian people. I don't see any problems here. If there is no victory, they will invent some victory. You see, Russian Federation has this nice thing which is television. they may even be doing nothing but show something on TV. Any sort of propaganda, finds a good response in Russian people, in Russian population. What sort of victories can Russia have in Ukraine? Of course, they will repeat whatever they already said, that they have allegedly destroyed Ukrainian military industry, that they have destroyed Ukrainian air defense, whatever Russia has been saying by their press unit of the Ministry of Defense of Russia. Of course, they cannot report about those cities and villages which are under temporary control of Russian armed forces. Those towns. It's difficult to imagine. Russia is an unpredictable country. They can invent whatever they want. Maybe they may say that, for example, those certain parts of Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast will be accepted to become part of Russian Federation. For example, they may announce that they are preparing to run a referendum in Kherson Oblast to also recognize certain territories as part of Russia. Whatever. We'll wait and see what will happen in Russia on the 9th of May. Thank you, Mr. Motuzyanyk. Any more questions?
Richard Lloyd Parry of the Times newspaper of London. Just to follow up my earlier question, what are the prospects now for the Ukrainian armed forces in the Azovstal steel plant? Is their defeat and capture inevitable now that they are isolated, or are there any hopes for their relief?
I'm sorry, but I'm not to comment on that. Let's wait and see how the situation develops. At the moment, I have nothing to add, unfortunately. There is a difficult situation there. Thank you, Mr. Motuzyanyk. Thank you for joining us. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Dear journalists, I'd like to remind you and our audience that at 3:30 p.m. here in our studio we'll have Deputy Head of Police of Kyiv Oblast, and we will discuss with him situation in Kyiv Oblast and crimes committed by the occupiers' army here and the demining activities